Welcome to Breaking the Chains. I am Bakita, and I have with me today my good friend Natalee. Natalee, I usually let everybody introduce themselves, so you got to introduce yourself, sis. Go
All
ahead.
right. Of course. All right. I'm Natalee Anderson. Kita probably, we go so far back, she probably remembers my maiden name, which I forgot I had one of those. Phillips.
Oh, wow, I forgot.
See, there you go. I was, just a little backstory about me. I was originally born in Jamaica, and I migrated to the US, Florida, where I met Bakita. I was about 12 years old. I did high school, married my high school sweetheart, had three beautiful children. And yeah, that's pretty much it about my life without giving too much away. We'll save the rest for later.
So, how long ago was it that you all started this journey? About 2 years, 3 years ago?
We started in 2018.
Okay. So 2018, you all started on this adventure around the world, pretty much.
Yes.
How in the world did you decide that you were going to just take a trip around the world with you, your husband, and your kids?
Well, a little bit, I think that people might not realize is we've always traveled. Being of Jamaican heritage, every summer we're taking the kids because we want them to be familiar. We've always wanted to keep that connection of our origins as a part of our lives and our kids' lives so that they're aware. And so my husband, he came home one day, bright idea. He says, I think we should travel the world with the kids.
Ooh.
And I know he will come up with the idea. So I was like, quick, before he changes his mind.
I know, right? Let's hop on it.
Right now, quick, we're leaving tomorrow. No.
Right.
No. So it was a culmination of things that I shared before from our lives that led us to this, to the decision to take that journey.
Okay. So how did you choose where you were going? Like, you guys were all over the place. So yes. For my audience, if you don't know, my friend they pretty much documented the entire journey on their Instagram, right?
Yeah. Yes. All social channels is Exploring Legacy.
Right. So Exploring Legacy, and they were all over the place. So how in the world did you all decide? Because one minute you were here, one minute you were there. It was just like, wait a minute. How did this all come about? Like, how did you do that?
Right. We wanted our kids to really have a worldview. Like, we did travel a little bit, but we wanted them to know that it was more than their neighborhood that they lived in. We also wanted to connect to our ancestry. We wanted to grow closer as a family, because in traveling together, you don't really know someone until you travel with them.
Right.
So being in that close proximity together and spending just that dedicated time without all the distractions of everyday life, and of course, fun.
So how did you all prepare to be traveling around the world for, like, it seemed like
yes.
You were traveling for a very long time. It was 2 years?
2 years, yes.
Wow. So how did you all prepare for that? Like, because most people would say, there's no way in the world that I could do something like that. Especially our people, it feels like it's something that's not doable at all. Not for Black. So how did you all prepare for that?
All right. One of the simplest things that we did from the beginning, just to enroll the kids and have them be a part of the process, was I bought a world map on Amazon. It's like $15. And I found a wall in our home and I hung that up. And then that really made it real for the kids to see. And then we, both my husband and I, we did our DNA through different channels. We used 2 different services.
Okay.
And we wanted to trace part of our journey, which ended up turning into a pilgrimage, was just tracing our ancestry and walk those lands that our ancestors walk and share that experience with our kids and see it through their viewpoint as well.
Okay.
So first thing was the map, then lots of research on where we were going to visit, how the flow would actually work. We had everything. My husband, he loves really nice things. And so over the years, we have accumulated all these things that, like a huge home. I mean, intercom to speak to the kids, really.
Yeah, I totally.
It's just so, it was preparing ourselves both physically and mentally, because mindset wise, just getting ourselves and the children prepared to be together for such a long period of time.
Right.
And I should also mention, because that's what most people ask about, he is an entrepreneur, so he was able to work digitally as well.
Okay. Yeah, that was the next question.
Yeah.
We're going to say, so how were you able to financially?
We did not win the lotto.
Right. Like most people feel like you have to be like extraordinarily rich to do something like that. And I totally disagree. I know that with some planning, you can do pretty much anything. So
planning and being very intentional and just having that mindset that you will work through it and there is a resolution that could work for your family.
So you mentioned that you all have a home. You were gone for 2 years. So what did you do with
sold the home, sold the cars.
So like you pretty much just like liquidated everything. And
yeah, we did keep a few things in a storage for our return, but yes, we liquidated majority of it. And you find it, this is the crazy part that blows people's minds, but it's actually more affordable to travel than it is to live in the state.
I found that to be so true. Like it is actually more affordable to travel abroad than it is to travel in within the continental United States.
Yes.
So yeah, I get it.
That was our experience as well.
You have 3 school-age children. School?
My husband was very concerned about that. And overall too, being of Caribbean heritage, it's like school.
Right.
And prior to traveling, they weren't homeschooled. We were in just normal public school like everyone else. Right. And so the moment we made the decision, back to the research. I joined every homeschooling group I could find. Right. I reached out to friends like yourself that were already doing it. And just really getting that background of how can this work? Like you set a goal and then you figure out, okay, how is this going to work? And how's this going to work for my family? Because 3 children, 3 different personalities.
Right.
So on the onset, we actually took a unschooling approach.
I love unschooling.
Just like clearing it all away.
Yeah.
And then at that point, we were able to see their personalities flourish and exactly what they were interested in and how they learned, because we all learn differently.
Absolutely.
I mean, in high school, I was all like,
get
it together. And
you were a very studious student.
Gotta get it right. And then my brother, raised on the same roof as me. Oh my gosh, don't even show him a book.
That's how I was.
Exactly. So with having our children, we wanted to make sure we were feeding them the way that they needed to be fed. And so now we're moving more, because our oldest, can you believe it, is in 9th grade high school. So yeah. So we are now transitioning more into a homeschool curriculum that's like virtual but accredited, so that however she chooses to pursue universities or however that works, that we're setting her up for that transition if that's something she chooses.
Right. So I know a lot of people, when you say homeschool, a lot of people kind of freak out and they're like, I can't do that, and that's just too much. You all were traveling and schooling your children at the same time. For me, I kind of imagined it just like learning on the go. Like you kind of just teach them as you go, which is how I operate our homeschooling, and which is more like unschooling. We don't do like typical sit down lessons type thing. My children learn better, like most children, playing. Mm-hmm. So how did you, while you guys were hopping from country to country, to city to city, mm-hmm. like how were you able to make sure that they stay on I guess on task, or in a school kind of like mindset?
Well, like you said, on schooling, it's a little less structured, but one thing that was a non-negotiable from before we left was journaling. Mm-hmm. Because they'll never be those ages again. They won't necessarily remember the emotions or how they felt. And then we tailored it to each child. So our daughters are older and they were able to write more. Our son, he was a little bit younger, so and he loves drawing. So it was drawing and then writing about how you feel. Where are you? Is it cold? Just for their level, how they were able to explain. So that was a constant every day, is just journaling about their experience, what they learned the day before, or however, whether they were doing it at the end of the day or in the morning. And then we did still do some, there's so many online resources these days, especially now, there's even more.
Yeah, so many.
So we did do some, like of the core subjects of math, but if you think about journaling, it's writing, it's spelling, it's English, it's all of that in one. Right. So we would just supplement with math. And then they were able to work together.
Yeah.
And so the girls are showing him, and he's like, I remember one day, I'm not sure where I went, and then I came back in and he goes, they showed me multiplication. I was like, oh, yeah. Okay.
It's really cool because I think the older ones tend to enjoy helping the smaller ones, and then it helps you all, and it helps them actually realize that they do know. It's a really, I actually love the unschooling model of homeschooling. So you're on this trip. Where did you all go first?
Our first stop was actually Mexico.
Okay. Why Mexico? What was it about Mexico that made you say this will be our first stop?
It was an easy transition. We had visited before. We were doing slow travel. So in each country, we're staying there for at least a month. And so it's a little different than hopping around. And we had already visited Mexico, and based on the map and how we chartered out how we would literally go around the world, that was the best place for us to begin.
So if you can recall, can you give us like a little rundown of how you guys went around the world? Like, where did you go?
We found in our research that it was more affordable and easier to travel east to west.
Okay. So,
yes. I had to think, I'm sorry, west to east.
Okay. So you went to Mexico, then you
Canada.
Okay.
Then London, Scotland, Ireland. I can't remember them all.
It was a lot.
We went that direction.
Okay. So you mentioned Ancestry.
Yes, that was a huge part of some of the countries that we chose.
You're Jamaican.
Yes.
So I've always known you to be Jamaican. That's all I know. and Ike's Jamaican. So
Right.
how did we end up in Scotland and all of these other places that you guys went? Like, you guys
Right.
come of everywhere. So how did you guys?
Well, Ike actually has Scotland in his heritage. When we received his DNA results, he had, I want to say 15%. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
And so that was part of the reason why we ended up in Scotland. And also some countries were transitional. So if we needed to get to a next country that held our ancestry or DNA, we would travel through that one country to get there. So they weren't all ancestry related, but majority were.
Right.
And that's how we ended up in Scotland.
Okay.
And India.
And India. Yeah, like India is pretty cool. You guys went to Indonesia. As I'm thinking about it, I'll probably just put I'll go through and put the list of places that you guys went. Right. I'll put that inside of our video here. Okay. When you're traveling with your family, you're going to get to see your family so much more than you usually do, because here, when you're home, you're working, they're at school, your husband's at work, everybody's doing their own thing. You probably come home, and we maybe see our family a few hours out of the day.
A couple, 3 or so.
At the most.
If you're being realistic.
If we're being realistic, we see our family like a couple of hours out of the day. So now you guys are on a trip and you're seeing each other 24/7.
That was one of my fears that I didn't verbalize because I didn't want to speak it into existence.
Right.
Because like you said, when you're here, you see each other very little, and then sometimes there's, they're kids. So there's bickering. And I'm like, 24/7, we're going to have this. It was absolutely not that at all.
Wow, really? So
because I found that most of the friction and the disagreements that came about were based on your environment and based on the lifestyle we were living at that time, which is an average American lifestyle. Okay, right. Hurry up, late, let's go, put on your shoes, like go. And they took this, I need that, like that's a lot of the struggles. They actually, which was one of the purpose, and I was so grateful that this actually took place, they became each other's best friends.
That's amazing.
They would like play together quietly. And of course, I'm like, whose kids are these?
Whose kids are these?
So for sure, that was a pleasant surprise and part of our goals. But yeah, that was amazing.
So what did you learn about yourself during this time?
I learned that I am the most easygoing person. I am completely fulfilled if we're together as a family. We could be together at a family at the tip of a volcano or anywhere else, at a beach. It doesn't matter. The environment that's okay for it to change for me. As long as we're together, that's what matters.
That's interesting. You've always been the most easygoing person that I know. Like always. So that's interesting that you didn't even know that about yourself.
Yeah.
So what did you learn about Ike?
I call it his sixth love language is space. Sure. He needs that alone time to just recharge, create, and just reflect. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes we definitely, another thing, I think the impression that people sometimes have is that we were like traveling, go. Right. There were down days that we're like, okay, we haven't scheduled anything today. We're just staying in pajamas, journal, and we're just relaxing. And so sometimes on those days, I would take the kids, if there's a pool at wherever we're staying, I'd say, okay, come, let's go give daddy some time.
Right, right.
And just give him that space to work through it.
So you have 2 daughters and a son.
Yes.
What did you learn about each child? Like, because I'm sure there were some things about their personalities that you had no idea about. So what did you learn about them?
I believe for each, what's the same for all of them, I was able to see qualities and different things they knew that I wouldn't have noticed if they were still in traditional school. Like there were things that they were teaching me.
Yeah.
That I was like, how you even know this? Well, that's their interest or something they're into. But when traditional school only highlights, well, either math, English, or science, or whatever that is, you really don't get to see how beautiful it is and all the things that they know and their interests.
Wow. So at some point along the trip, I'm sure the way you see the world had to change in some way. So how do you see the world now?
Endless possibilities.
Versus maybe, because although you already traveled before, traveling for 2 years and going from country to country has to have had a serious impact on how you see things. So you already had a very open mind to even try to take a trip like this.
Right.
What is it now that you're like, okay, if I wouldn't have taken this trip, I wouldn't know this?
I think it definitely opened, like I said before, to the possibilities. And one constant that we experienced in every country we went to was love.
Oh.
And it was heartwarming because, as you said, from your previous experiences, even though you've traveled, you still tend to feel like, okay, where is someone's coming to, do something.
Yeah.
But we received so much love, and especially to the family unit. And most of these countries, people didn't look like us.
Right.
But they were always so enamored by the children and just like, oh, it's such like, we noticed at some point, I forget which country we were in. They were like, this one lady stopped us and she's like, this is such a blessing that, because we had the 3 kids, like, and we realized at some point the mindset in the States was more like, oh, you got your hands full, like 3 kids. Oh, how could you do it? Like, it was more of a burden. But everywhere else, it was, people were just so bright-eyed and excited to see a family.
That is so heartwarming to hear. It reminds me of one of my trips to Guinea, where I was on a flight, and as Americans, you're trying to keep your kids like close by, and you don't want them to make no noise, and you don't want them to aggravate anybody, and you're trying so hard. And it can actually cause some travel anxiety when you have children. And, my children are smaller than yours.
Right.
But I would be on.
I remember those days, though.
And though the women and men on the flight would help with the children. And they're like, oh, why are you holding her? Let her go. Like, we're on a plane. Where is she going to go? And I'm like, well, I don't want her to bother.
I don't want her to bother.
And they're like, oh, no. And I'm like, wow, how interesting is that? So to hear you say that in other countries, you could feel the love for family.
Yes.
It's freaking amazing to me.
Yeah.
So now you're on this trip, you're going around the world, and I know a lot of times people do a lot of traveling and they kind of skip over Africa. But
that was I teased my husband. I was like, is this an Africa or bus trip? We have a bus, Africa or bus?
Yes. So you end up in Africa. Mm-hmm. But where did you start in Africa?
Just strategically based on flights, which mm-hmm. as you start to research, you'll see what works best. But
right.
You do end up having to follow the flow somewhat. So we did visit Egypt, was the first part of the continent we landed in. And we spent we had some good times there for sure.
Whoa. How long did you guys stay in Egypt?
We were there for 3 weeks.
Ooh, that's some good time.
Yes.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like we could talk all day about the experiences there, but I would say like one of the highlights for myself and the kids, like everyone had the same like open, wide-eyed look, was when we went into one of the chambers in the Pyramid of Giza and just like being in there. It is mind-blowing.
So you went to Egypt, then you went to, do you remember where you went next?
A couple flights, but then we went to Ghana.
Okay, so you end up in Ghana, girl.
Yes.
Tell me, because now, you know, I'm like an honorary Jamaican. Because all of y'all, I swear, all of my friends are Jamaican. Almost all, okay, one is Bahamian, one is from St. Louis. But the majority of friends are Jamaican, so you know.
I think it's a South Florida thing.
Yeah. So I know most people know that Jamaicans consider themselves descendants of Ghana. Mm-hmm. You have the Maroons, and you have it's a whole lot, whole lot, mm-hmm. and that's a direct connection. Even some of the food is like a direct connection.
Right.
So tell me about how you learned about your ancestry in Ghana. I know you took the test, but there were some inklings before then, correct?
We did have some inklings, but I felt like for me, mm-hmm. it started with when we were about to land in Accra. Okay. Every time I return to Jamaica, when I'm just before I land, once I look out the window and I see the land, there's something in my spirit.
I know exactly what you go for.
That just says you're home. And so intellectually, we're going to Ghana and it's a stop and there's ancestry here, but I'm not expecting to feel that feeling because I've never been before.
Right.
And I look out the window and I start to feel that same feeling. So it was almost like a coming home to a place you've never been.
You've never been. I had the exact same feeling.
Yes.
Literally the exact same feeling. As soon as I stepped off the plane, because it was dark when I got there. As soon as I stepped off the plane, it was like, whoa.
Why?
Whoa. It was the exact feeling that I had when I was in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. I didn't understand why I had that feeling in Jamaica. I just felt because all of my friends are Jamaican. I'm like kind of like a little bit Jamaican on the side over here. So that's why I thought I felt like that in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. But when I went to Ghana, I literally had that same feeling, but even stronger because of course I'm not Jamaican. But it was that similar feeling. It was just even more so. So to hear you say that, like, this is the very first time I'm hearing it like that from someone who I know is Jamaican, who understands that feeling from going to Jamaica, and now you got that same feeling going to Ghana. So that is just like really blowing my mind right now. So what happens next? You get there, you're getting off the plane, you having that feeling, and now what happens?
Just more familiarity, even not just the land, but the people.
Yeah.
You felt like, doesn't that look like so-and-so's cousin? Or doesn't that look like it looks, the features, the way they walk, just the mannerisms.
Yeah.
You feel like, do I know them? Or how is this happening?
Yeah.
So definitely just that familiarity.
Yeah, it's so familiar. So now you've been to, I don't even know how many. You know how many countries you all have been to?
22.
Damn. 22 countries, and you arrive in Ghana. You're having this same familiarity, really strong. What did you learn while you were in Ghana? Because of course, this is your first time. I'm sure you did some research, but what did you actually learn while you were on the ground in Ghana?
Wow. I think for me, it was more of an energy. And so all the places we visited, we made it our priority to not just visit like tourist visit. And honestly, I mean, anything after 2 weeks, you're initiated.
Right.
You live
You're not a tourist anymore.
You're not a tourist. But I was definitely intentional about making sure that we experience not only the land of everywhere we visit, but the history and the people and the culture, and just really soaking that in. And so the different cities and towns that and villages we visited in Ghana, it was a similar thing there. I found myself at different times just like really breathing in that moment and just feeling it and let it settle with me.
Yeah.
So a little inexplicable, but yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed during you guys' journey is you spend a lot of time with children in different places.
Yes.
What was that about? Like, why did you all decide that while you were taking this journey, you would spend a lot of time with children, other children?
Right. One, for the mirror effect, for our children to see themselves and how other children live around the world. And two, more so my husband than I mean, we both share that. We have an affinity for elders and children. And so even in Ghana, I'm not sure if we portrayed that, but we did spend time meeting with the elders of the community. I know we did in Australia as well, because that's where you get the richness and the history, not from necessarily a book or what you've heard on TV, but sitting with someone and sharing in their experience and their life is invaluable.
So,
and therefore also with the children, it's now, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. With the children, it was just connecting with the youth, and for them, as well as our children, seeing them seeing us, and seeing themselves in us, and seeing how their life, seeing the possibilities, like maybe they might not have the opportunity, but they later at some date might dream like, I did see this family that did come by from this town, and that can be a dream of theirs. So it's really reciprocal.
So you spoke about talking with the elders in Ghana. You know, typically we get some history on this side about our trying to be diplomatic about it.
Right.
Our
Keep it
transition from there to here, we get their story. So you were able to sit with some elders and get our story. So what was the most strikingly different understanding you got as you were speaking with elders and learning things in Ghana?
For me, one of the things that I found moving and comforting and mind-blowing is just how much of an important role that the woman plays.
Yeah.
Like with the Queen Mother and just the history of that. Just again, in the Western culture, it's just more of the man's world kind of thing, but the woman's role.
So if you could, because a lot of people don't understand that, and can you tell us what you learned and how even maybe that kind of ties in with what you see from us here?
Can you expound on that a little bit?
Like the woman, the Black woman here in America and in Jamaica we're a really important and strong part of our families.
Right.
We a lot of times we carry the family. The man may be doing the providing part, but we're like the structure.
Glue.
Yeah, the glue. So did you see or learn anything that made you understand why, or how that brings us like a queen mother and her role versus our role as mothers and I guess leaders in our communities?
I think it just definitely, as you're mentioning, is just the similarity. The difference, I believe, would be that it's not openly in the States acknowledged and presented and portrayed as such.
Okay, yeah, I could agree with that totally.
So I would say they both mirror each other unknowingly.
Yeah.
That strength and that glue and being there and really supporting your husband, and that's definitely there, but it just isn't necessarily portrayed or really acknowledged publicly.
Yeah. So you've been around the world and I
can't find my baby.
Yes. And you find yourself in Ghana. Ghana is where you had where the two of you found like DNA wise? Is that where most of your lineage comes from?
Generally speaking, West Africa. There's some more that we plan to explore later.
Great. So now you're in Ghana, you're enjoying, you're learning, the kids are learning, everything is just really good. And then was it time to come back to America?
No, we had more.
You're traveling. So you traveled even more after you left Ghana.
All right.
Did you how much longer did you guys travel?
I want to say maybe an additional 8 months or so.
I didn't even realize it was that much longer.
Yeah. Wow. Time flies.
Wow. I don't know why I thought it was like, okay, they went to Ghana. But now that I think of it, because I talked to you when I was in Guinea, I think you guys were still traveling.
Yep.
At one point while I was in Guinea, and then I talked to y'all again, and y'all were back in the States. Okay, yes. Right. So now you're back here, and you've decided something, right? You've decided that of all the places you went in the world, you might want to try to stay somewhere for a little while.
Yes. Maybe
short, maybe long. We don't know. But we're going to move to
Ghana.
Ghana. Why? Why? Why you want to move to Ghana? You've been everywhere in the world. Why in the hell would you move to Ghana?
For one, of course, the familiarity, but then also there is the aspect of Ghana is like the gateway into the continent, in our opinion. And so it's an entry point, a port of entry.
Right.
To explore further. And one thing we noticed on our flight to Ghana, we also went back another time, is we saw that the flights were very diverse.
Yes.
And so part of it is the economic growth that's happening in Ghana,
right,
and who exactly is taking part and benefiting from that economic growth. So there's a couple projects and opportunities that we'll be working on while we're there.
Okay, great. So how are you preparing? Because my channel is about repatriation. Mm-hmm. And one of the main things that people are always asking is, how do you just move to Ghana? Which, I mean, you're not just moving to Ghana, you're preparing. So how are you guys preparing to do so?
So we're again, back to the research thing.
Yep.
Spending a lot of time with that. We're working at this point still on accommodations, transportation. We mentioned the homeschooling and just securing that and make sure it's set up in a certain way. So it's really just planning. Mm-hmm. Planning. And relationships that we formed when we were there. Mm-hmm. And definitely like working more with forming new relationships, joining Facebook groups like yours. Yes. And really getting to know the community. Right. And making those connections before you even leave. And that will set the stage.
Right. So how long did you all stay in Ghana?
A month.
Oh, that's a really good chance to get to really see what a lot of people, they just feel like they can just get up and move to Ghana, which you can. People can actually, you can hop up and move to Ghana. My mother did it with us. Granted, I had been going to Ghana for years. I knew Ghana, so she wasn't quite moving blindly, but she was. So people can do that. But as someone who has been to Ghana, you spent a month in Ghana, what would you advise someone who was thinking about moving to Ghana?
With moving anywhere, you first have to start by exploring. It won't necessarily be for you. Right. There's many other countries on the continent that might be more your suiting. So you first have to start. It's like there's a process and baby steps. So first, and what I can guarantee is if you never start exploring and getting out there, then you'll never know what suits you.
Exactly.
Or how it can or will work. Right. Right. So even if it's starting with little trips to Mexico or, you just have to, or Jamaica.
And a good start to kind of see what Ghana might be like. But
right. A good preface. Yeah. And spending more than just the week or two, if you can, because like I said before, once you make it past that 2-week mark, you're no longer, for me, it's really funny. But when I start going to the grocery store, right, that's when I say, okay, I live here now. Right. Which most of the countries I have been to the grocery store and I'm trying to pick out, I mean, if it's a country that they don't speak English, I'm like, okay, this looks like what I think it is. Just start packing that cart. So that's when you really get a feel for the land and the people. But you do have to visit and see, because it won't necessarily be for everyone, but there are other opportunities and other places out there that you could definitely make that move.
Even though you've been and you've you pretty much lived for a month in Ghana.
Mhm.
What are your expectations? Like, yeah, what do you expect as you move?
No expectations.
Perfect.
And that is how we did the entire world travel. You make a plan, you have a framework, but you understand that even if you stay in where you're currently living, when you wake up in the morning, maybe you thought you were going to have, your day was going to go a certain way, and it doesn't.
Right.
So part of the mindset that allowed us to do the traveling, that will allow us to do this move, is just, and we've trained our children in a similar fashion, is not having certain expectations and just appreciating.
Right. You got to be flexible.
So you have to be flexible.
Because it can go, and I'm sure spending 2 years traveling, you got to be able to pivot on a dime.
Yes.
Right? Because I imagine that you could have plans for this, but it doesn't quite go that way. So we have to be able to switch gears and do something else, or let's start again tomorrow. You know?
Right.
And
you have to be flexible.
You have to be flexible. And I think that that's one of the things about us moving to Ghana was the same thing. It was not having any expectations of what it should be like. It should be an adventure.
And it's life.
And it's and it comes fast, don't it?
Yes.
So with your children, are you going to, do you know if you're going to homeschool? Are you going to put them in school when you get to Ghana? What are your plans?
For now, it's homeschool. But again, we will see. But for sure, right now, we're planning on homeschool.
Okay, good. Yes. So we have a couple thousand viewers. Most of them, I think, look like us. Most of them are actually men, between the ages of 45 and 54. But a lot of them I know are wanting to take certain trips and repatriate and all of these things. Is there any advice that you can offer to our people who are looking to, you know, take a trip? Maybe they want to take a trip like yours. Maybe they want to follow in your footsteps, or maybe they just want to repatriate. What advice would you give them?
The work starts internally with your mindset. That would be my number one thing, because once you're able to work on your mindset and see it even as a possibility,
right,
then that opens you up more to what could be a possibility.
Wow. So what do you say to people who say, well, I don't have money, I can't do that. That's for people with money. What would you say to them?
Back to the mind.
It's in your mind. In your mind.
Yes.
I agree.
I don't know if it's my mother. Thank you, Mom.
Amen.
But I've always found, and my husband, there is a way.
Yeah.
And even actually the mindset I had in school as well was, and maybe that's what's transferred to life.
Absolutely.
Is someone before me did this. And so someone before me passed this class, I could pass this class. So someone before me found a way, I could find a way.
Absolutely. I love it. I love your optimism. I love the fact that you have done something that it seems quite, for a lot of our people, it feels impossible, but you guys have shown us all that there's nothing that's impossible. If you want to travel the world with your children, do it. Because many of us, especially us as women, we feel like, oh, I gotta wait until my children are grown before I can actually see things in the world. And what you have done is you've pretty much broken down that entire barrier by just doing it.
Yep.
And I appreciate you for that. I appreciate your family for the strength and the courage that it has taken to just step out there. Mm-hmm. Just step out there. America is not the only thing in the world.
For sure.
So much more in the world. And just back to the fact that the love that you were able to feel in the places that you went, I think if I could say anything to our audience, that I would say here that love is the key. So thank you. I want to thank you for joining me. Your story is so amazing. If anyone wants to follow the Anderson family, go to Exploring Legacy.
Yes.
On all social media, Exploring Legacy, and you can follow them. You can follow their journey. I'm sure they'll be documenting their journey to Ghana, within
and beyond.
And beyond. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing more of your story. Thank you for taking out the time. I know you're super busy. I'm about to let you go.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Tell the family hello, and I love you guys.
Will do. All right. Take care.
See you later.
Bye.